And there it is. Hello, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So now, guys, this perhaps one of the most unusual things that I've yet seen. Not just in this year, really, ever, really, one of the most unusual things I've ever seen ever. So just before I get into it, you've already seen the title, so you know where this is headed. But before I get into it, just a little, just to absolve myself a little bit, I'm not one to stand in the way of true love. I myself believe in the concept, and age is just a number and all of that are matters of the heart. Is essentially about the two people involved. So let me just set that as a disclaimer. But matters of the heart essentially about the two people involved. But really, what are we making of this is the question. So this is the thing. This is what causes the alarm somewhat. I say, well, it is alarm because it does alarm me somewhat. And it probably does alarm you too. A 25-year-old man set to wed his 85-year-old lover. So there it is right there. And that is the picture of the, are we saying blissful couple? So that's their picture, the blissful couple. So there it is right there. That is them relaxing. It's just quite a thing. So that is it right there. 25-year-old man, 25-year-old man set to wed his 85-year-old lover. So there it is. So now let's now find out exactly what has led to this. A 25-year-old man has shocked the world after disclosing his plan to marry his 85-year-old, and wait for how they're describing the 85-year-old's girlfriend. So there it is. A 25-year-old man has shocked the world after disclosing his plans to marry his 85-year-old girlfriend. Muima met his older lover, Teresa, when he was looking for a house to rent whilst he furthered his studies. He and his colleagues found themselves at Teresa's house in Kenya, and they paid rent and moved in. Muima and Teresa became friends, and she used to jokingly call him her husband, which he took lightly. But as time went by, uh, they both started to fall in love. So that's essentially what that says. Muima told Afrimax English, the way she behaved and treated me pushed me to love her. And though she's an old woman, and in reality, she could be my grandmother, but I love her. He recounted a day his colleagues he recounted a day his colleague was away and he was hungry and had no food in his rental house. The woman brought him some food and served him with so much care before asking for a kiss, and he obliged. Their bond grew stronger afterwards, and the couple spent time playing, lifting one another, and traveling despite Teresa's age. This is my choice. This is my happiness, as anyone else has theirs. Before pleasing others, first please yourself and decide not based on anyone else's opinion, Muima told Afrimax English. Teresa has grandchildren, older, of course. Look at the age disparity. We cannot, if she has children, then we have children. She should even have great grandchildren this boy's age. But here it is. I'm not poo-pooing love, and I'm not being an ageist or anything, but this is alarming. There's no equivocation about that. There's no gainsaying, there's no ifs and buts. This is alarming, at the very least, alarming. Teresa has grandchildren older than Muima, but she is not ashamed of being in a relationship with him. She said, I have 8 children and 20 grandchildren. According to my boyfriend's age, he could be my fifth grandchild. He loves me and I love him. I am ready to put on the wedding dress and ring. Muima is even ready to pay. It gets even more ludicrous, of course. The entirety and the totality of it is ludicrous, but the more into it you go, the more ludicrous it sounds. So just listen to, like, I'll just take that paragraph again. Uh, she said, I have 8 8 children and 20 grandchildren. So that is sufficient enough of a family already. That is not even a family. That is a village. That is a community, all just from this one woman. So she said, I have 8 children and 20 grandchildren. So according to my boyfriend, this is how the 85-year-old woman, grandma, the 85-year-old grandma is describing this 25-year-old boy. According to my boyfriend, according to my boyfriend's age, he could be my fifth grandchild. He loves me and I love him, and I am ready to put on the wedding dress and ring. There it is. And it gets even more ridiculous. The next paragraph, perhaps the most ridiculous yet. Muima is even ready to pay the bride price of 12 cows, which his girlfriend's children have asked for. Uh, he said he has found love with so there, let me just scroll this down for yeah. So there it is. So he's ready to pay the 12 cows bride price that day. Imagine the audacity of these children. This is just. So they palm their mother off to this guy to be her carer. So they absolve themselves of that responsibility and hand him over to be her carer. And on top of that, they are sweating him for 12 cows. Look at that. If you ever want to know what a mug looks like, that is that guy on your screen right there. An MUG, a mug. This is what this guy. I'm sorry, but I'm not sitting on the fence anymore. This guy is a mug. It's a mug. Uh, the audacity. Muima is even ready to pay the bride price of 12 cows, which his girlfriend's children have asked for. He said he has found love with the granny after being in many dramatic relationships which are draining. I'll never choose any girl over this one. So now, I said two paragraphs ago was the most ridiculous, but this one absolutely beyond the realms. So listen to this. Um, I'll never choose any girl over this one. I pray she won't die before me. Muima added. So listen to that and just listen to that as a standalone and then listen again as I build it up. I'll never choose any girl over this one. So that's fine. But listen to this next statement. I pray she won't die before me. So the 25-year-old man getting married to an 85-year-old woman is praying that that 85-year-old woman does not die before him. That is what he said. You know, I'll never choose any girl over this one. I pray she won't die before me. Muima added. So there it is right there. But it gets even more ridiculous. I promise you, it does get more ridiculous, more ludicrous. But the last paragraph is the real killer. Teresa does not rule out the chances of raising a family with her young boyfriend. She said there are examples in the Bible of old women who gave birth, and that gives her hope. So that gives her hope. That is it right there. So that's the last paragraph of this, the most ludicrous yet story that I've ever come across. And it just runs off so perfectly. The last paragraph being the most ludicrous. Teresa doesn't rule out the chances of raising a family with a young boyfriend. She said there are examples in the Bible of old women who gave birth, and that gives her hope. So the young man married to an 80, I say young man, let's give him his proper age. The 25-year-old man set to marry an 85-year-old woman is doing that in hope of starting off a family. And his prayer, of course, is that the 85-year-old woman does not die before him. So that is what they do in Kenya. So that is Kenya style. And it's not as though the guy doesn't have options. He's renting the house, he's renting the apartment, to further his studies. So he's left home to go to campus, to go to whatever institution, and he needed accommodation there. And typically of students everywhere, he's cobbled together with his friend to rent a room or a studio flat somewhere. Standard fare, normal, globally. So that tells you a man pointing in a direction that has a future. So he's getting educated, to build a better life for himself. So it's not a desperate guy at the uh, at the last ebb of life. It's not a desperate man. It's not a desperate boy at the last ebb of life. So a man with a future, a 25-year-old boy, just perfecting his education to then launch at life. Then he comes across this 85-year-old woman, you know, and it's not poverty because he's willing to pay 12 cows in bride price. So that tells you that it's sufficient enough means to be able to afford a bride. So that's roughly will be the bride price of any young and because I don't imagine that they ask for much more than that. If you wanted to marry an 18, 19-year-old girl, so he's willing to pay a bride price, which the audacious children of this woman are asking him for. It's just the most bizarre. I've never come across anything more bizarre. So bizarre goings on in Kenya, that is it right there. So come share thoughts about all this with me in the comment section. Love is blind. Love as a site. Why do they say love is blind and all that? But love is blind or not, a 25-year-old boy with a future does not marry an 85-year-old woman who then promises him to build a family with him. I don't, that is just, I cannot accept that. That is unacceptable. Come share thoughts about all this with me in the comment section. So I'll leave it there. Carry the conversation with you in the comment section. But here, I say, peace.